Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Matters. My name is Glenn Coleman, and this is my beautiful wife, the wife of my youth.
Tanya Coleman.
Yes, that's her name. Loving me is her game.
Yes,
Ask me again, and I'll tell you the same.
Okay. Got a rapper over here.
Anyway, this is Marriage Matters. This is a show where we talk about all things relationships, marriage, family, whatever. So we want to just give you tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks.
That are applicable on all levels of life. So thanks for tuning in. So what are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about how tragedy, stress, trauma, drama kind of reveals your foundation in your marriage. What happens when you're going through something like we're going through right now in the middle of being quarantined during this coronavirus outbreak? There are a lot of people I keep hearing on television, social media, and things like that about people getting divorced during this time. They're struggling being quarantined together with their spouses. And so I kind of wanted to address that today.
Okay.
You know, what's happening? Is it the virus? Is it the quarantine?
Coronavirus?
Stop. Is it the quarantine? Is it the coronavirus fault that people are not doing well in their marriages right now? You know, what happens when tragedy happens? What happens when pressure is applied? What happens when our comfortable life is interrupted? You know, why would that cause for marriages to fall apart?
Well, I'd like to start with this. You know, I was watching this documentary on 9/11, September 11th. And one of the things that they were talking about was, you know, when these planes were flying, they were crashing these planes, using these planes as missiles. And the military and the FAA were trying to figure out, you know, if where all these planes were, what were they going to do? Should they ground all the planes? What were going on? And one of the things the guy was saying was, you know, the military spoke, they had code words and acronyms for these things.
Right.
But the FAA would call those things these things.
Yeah.
So they were trying to, and they played this one clip back, and he was like, you know, I'm just making this up. He was like, you know, what's your C007, whatever.
Right.
And the guy from the FAA comes back, he's like, I don't understand that terminology. Do you mean this? And he was like, no. So what happened was, and the guy said this, he said, this crisis exposed our weaknesses as far as our defense goes in this country. So it exposed some areas that we never thought about, we never addressed. And so what I'm saying is that that's what typically happens in times of stress. A lot of what typically happens is you get to see the areas that you're not so strong in.
Right, that haven't been fortified.
Yeah. And I think that's what's happening. That's why, you know, you have people, you know, like you're saying, maybe getting divorced or they just can't be alone with their wife, is because the weaknesses or the foundation, as you put it, the foundation wasn't where they thought it was.
Right.
You know, so
I think, you know, this particular time has made us all really slow down. You know, we talked about it the other day, how literally 7 days a week we are obligated to be somewhere doing something, right? And so when that completely stops, when that all stops, and we are stuck, quote unquote stuck, just being at home with our spouses, with our children, those things that we have not taken care of, those things in the foundation of our household, of our families, they bubble to the top. Our busy life It's almost like if I were baking. And so sometimes when you bake, you have to sift the flour, right? You want to sift all of the hard things, the things that shouldn't be there out. And the sifting softens the flour. Okay. And so our busyness of life is all of the things, the contaminants that are left in the sifter once you're done sifting the flour. And so when we have removed that stuff out of the way, what do you have left? Do you have good, soft, fluffy, pure white flour, or do you have bugs? Has your flour been sitting in the pantry for too long? What's left. During this time, you see what's left. You take away baseball, you take away football, basketball, tennis, you take away meetings, you take away church, you take away all the stuff that we busy our lives with, and now we have to sit with us.
When you said that, it made me think about, we take away all the numbing agents. We take away all the things that are escapes. Those are the things that we go to escape.
Yep.
I don't want to deal with the wife and kids, so I'm just going to watch the game.
Right.
Or not that's my escape. And maybe I said that wrong, because I don't. This is a time where it gives us that pressure, that relief, that release, and all those things have been taken away from us. So it kind of forces us to then turn and face the issue. Does that make sense?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And so, no, I don't think you said it wrong, because you do have people that think that way, that now I have to deal with my wife. I have to deal with my kids every day. They're just there. I can't go and meet the buddies to play golf. I can't go, and have dinner with the girls on Friday night. I can't do those things that people are so used to doing as escapism. And so now we have to manage this thing, and you're going to see where you're at. If you're not used to sitting, having conversations with your spouse, it's really quiet at your house right now. If you're not used to spending time with your kids and them just being kids tends to annoy you, you're pretty frustrated right now. And so I think the realness of all of that is what's happening for some people, that I'm hearing, in this nation, this country. Now that the virus levels are tapering off, these people are getting divorced. People here in our country are talking more about, I can't stand to live with this person anymore, because we're together 24/7 now. I think it's really sad.
And that's why, I remember, I guess maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago. We Tanya and I went through a pretty rough patch there in our marriage, not in our marriage, but in life.
Yeah.
As far as finances, and we were both, kind of working from home, and I remember we got really close during that time. We really just, and I remember it's like, we were watching movies together, but then DirecTV got turned off. So then we was watching Netflix on our phone, but then the phones got turned off. So it's like, but it was in that moment that I realized that, man, I'm so glad that we have a great relationship. Because if that ended, the pressure of that financial strain could put on a marriage, on top of everything else that we were going through at the time, it could have ruined if our relationship. And listen, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, that's why we do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why we do Marriage Matters.
Absolutely.
That's why we do Marriage for Life. Yep. That's why we do the marriage meetups. That's why we do marriage refreshers. Because and I say this all the time, and I don't think people, it doesn't really sink in, because a lot of times when you tell people, hey, my wife and I, we do this 12-week course for marriage. You know what most people do is they say, Oh, we're good.
We're good. I don't need
As a
that.
matter of fact, I did that when we first were introduced to Married for Life. I told Tanya we don't really need that, you know. But what you don't understand is that marriage counseling, and that even the word counseling has such a negative connotation with it. But what you're doing is it's kind of like this with your health. The goal in health is to do the work to keep the health in your control.
Right.
Because if you don't, then somebody else will manage it for you.
Right.
Your doctor, through medicine, through all these things. You got what I'm saying? And maybe that's not a great example. Here's a better example, maybe. With your car, you do your every 2,000 miles, you get the oil change. You know, and I know a lot of times it's frustrating. They come in, they show you the little.
Right.
So
the
you see this. This is your power
yeah.
steering oil. This is what it should look like. And you invest all that time and energy because if you do all those things, then the car will typically last longer.
Right.
Perform better.
Right.
You don't wait or if you don't do all those things and things break, then sometimes you put your you want to spend a lot more money if you don't do the routine maintenance.
Right.
And that's what all this stuff is. It's the routine maintenance because when stuff like this happens, when you are put into quarantine together, and you have to be with each other 24/7, you know, then that's where, and that's what we were saying. I was talking about with 9/11. You don't want to wait till the tragedy strikes.
Right, until there's a crisis.
To expose your weakness. You want to do the work ahead of time. Right. And so now I know right now you may be in a crisis, maybe, but again, you can't look at this crisis and say, well, it's too late now. No, you start doing the work now for 10 months down the road. Or, you know, we were talking with another couple, and you know they're newlyweds, and they were just saying, I just don't see anything we would argue about or disagree about. I'm like, well, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to,
and you shouldn't right now. You're newlyweds.
Right. But I'm saying it's coming. But and our thing is this: we want to make sure that the problem is not the disagreement.
Right.
The problem is when you don't have the tools to work through and know how to navigate through the disagreement. That's where the problem comes in. And so what all of this is all about is preparing you for, first of all, it's marriage enrichment, right? It's making it better, but it's also giving you
like professional development, right? We do it for work.
It is. And that's the thing I always say, you know, we do that for every other part of our life. You know, we have house maintenance. You know, we get car maintenance. You know, like you said, professional development at work and all these things. But when it comes to our marriages, our relationships, a lot of times, those get the least amount of attention. And at the end of the day, those relationships are what truly matter. Because
right now, most of us, not all of us, but most of us are not leaving our homes to go to work. There is no professional development, okay? So right now, and none of us expected this. None of us expected to be told to stay home.
It's amazing if maybe a month ago, if you would have said social distancing, people would have been like,
"What?
What is social distancing?"
Right.
But now that's like
everyone knows what that is.
Yeah.
Everyone, you know, and so this was unexpected. This is life. Life happens. Different crises at different times happen because we are living in this earth, in this world, this fallen world. We live here, you know. And so one of the things you mentioned earlier, oftentimes when we offer the marriage enrichment to people, we offer people to join the Married for Life class or to come to the marriage refresher or to come to a marriage meetup. You know, it's kind of like you said, you know, we don't really need that. A lot of responses that I get from women, from wives is, oh, my husband's not going to come. He's not going to come because He doesn't like people in our business. He doesn't want to talk to people. When you start inquiring why, they begin to give these reasons. And I'm like, that says to me that there's some work there that needs to be done. If you don't feel open enough to go and work on your marriage, that means that there is something that you're trying to block and hide that you're not yet willing to open up and work on. This is the stuff that we have to get past. This kind of behavior, because now we're in this situation where when y'all haven't been liking each other too much, you haven't been getting along, you haven't been doing the things that healthy married people do, now you're stuck with each other and you're miserable. Who wants that? Why not do the work? If you have inner work that needs to be done, maybe starting the marital work will help you realize, oh, there's some other things that I need to work on personally, for myself. But it's not the crisis. We asked the question earlier, is it the crisis? Is it the quarantine? No, it's not the quarantine. It's not the crisis. It's the foundation. Your foundation has been exposed. It has not been assured. There isn't anything backing that foundation. There isn't anything supporting that foundation. And so now everything is exposed. You have termites. That's like, really bad. Okay. No one wants termites in their home, right? They cause damage. They can become very expensive to repair those things. And so I wanted to talk about this to encourage people, y'all, do your work. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. If you need help, you need help. You may not be in a crisis. Maybe you do feel like Glenn did that, hey, we're good. We have a good marriage, Okay, that's great. But you still have to work on it. Are you working on it? Are you doing the maintenance? It can get better. Are you just an autopilot? Are you okay with just a good marriage? I really desired a great marriage, and now I can say that I feel like we have a great marriage because we have been investing the time. We don't do this just us doing this. We actually go to have our marriage enriched to other marriage events. We want to hear from people that have been doing what we're doing longer than we've been doing it. We want to hear from people of different, nationalities, different cultures, and all of these different things. So we make sure that we invest in our marriage. Your marriage deserves to be invested in. Take the time and do so, and realize that it should not take a crisis for you to realize that my marriage deserves to be invested in, and I hate to hear that this crisis is causing divorce. It's not causing divorce. The issues that are there were there long before this crisis. This crisis just kind of took the cover off of what was going on.
It brought it to the top.
It brought it to the top.
My point is, it shouldn't be that way, or you can only expect. Let me see. I'm trying to think. So, what you're seeing now, if you are that couple that is maybe dealing with some things during this time, then what you're experiencing now is a result of what you did or did not do. Leading up to this. Okay. If you're experiencing greatness right now, if you're having the time of your life right now, what you're doing is you're experiencing the things that you did or did not do. Right. My point is this is not, like Tanya was saying, we can't blame our relationship failures and the breakdown of our relationships on the coronavirus. This is just a crisis that exposed, just like 9/11. It had nothing to do with the terrorist attacks.
Right.
It exposed it. Right.
The weaknesses.
But the great news is with that terrorist attack, what the U.S. Air Force did and the FAA, they totally transformed the way they did things. They were saying how the Air Force One got a new upgrade, all new telecommunications, and they started thinking in a different way of, let's think in the future of if this ever happens again, or let's even go in the preventative measures. What can we do to prevent this from happening again? So anyway.
Because we were in the mindset, as I think we are now, that can never happen to us. That'll never happen to us.
That can never. And I even remember at the beginning of this, when I was in December, was it? It was happening in China. I'm like, man, whew. I'm glad we don't have to deal with stuff like that.
Right.
And here we are.
Yeah. Because it exposes how very small the world is too.
Yeah.
We cross seas and borders all the time.
Yeah.
But there was a scripture I wanted to read because you talked about or mentioned earlier about the seeds that we sow, and how they are going to come to harvest. And so we can be sowing good seed into our marriage, or we can be sowing bad seed into our marriage. But Galatians 6:7 says, don't be misled. Remember that you can't ignore God and get away with it. A man will always reap just the kind of crop he sows. If he sows to please his own wrong desires, he will be planting seeds of evil. He will surely reap a harvest of spiritual decay and death. But if he plants the good things of the Spirit, he will reap the everlasting life that the Holy Spirit gives him. So no matter the type of seed that you sow, remember, seed does what seed does. Seed is designed to reproduce and to grow. So rather that be good seed or bad seed, seed only knows to reproduce. It only knows to grow. So I encourage you to plant some good seed. If you've planted some bad seed, you have 30 more days at least to clear out that bad seed and to begin planting new good seed.
Yeah.
Redo your harvest, replant so that you can have a greater crop at the end of all of this.
And that's the great thing about this. I remember this is maybe a few years ago, I was talking to someone about their marriage, and he said, I just really believe I made some really bad decisions in my marriage. And I told him, the great thing about decisions, if you don't like the ones you've made, you can make new ones.
Always make new ones.
And that's the thing. If you don't like the harvest or the crop that you're seeing right now, guess what? Just start now.
Yep.
Planning what you want to see.
That's right.
Find out, first of all, you have to know what you want.
And that's why those hard conversations are important.
That's why. And because here's, and again, I'm not belittling or anyway, let me just say, I see people all the time, they post, they put, it's a picture of Beyonce and Jay-Z goals, relationship goals, or whoever it is. But my thing is, okay, that's great. But what did it take? The question we don't ask ourselves is, what does it take to sustain that type of relationship? And the reason why most people, well, let me not say that. The reason why a lot of times we don't reach our quote unquote goals is because we're not willing to do what it takes to do that. So even when it comes to like Tanya and I's relationship, we didn't get here. It wasn't just a set it and forget it type thing. We had to do the work. We had to put in the work. We had to go and talk to other people. Like Tanya said, we had to go and talk to other couples. We have mentors in marriage. We have people that we call and talk to and run things by. You got what I'm saying? To do so, you have to do the work. So if you are in a place right now where you just maybe you don't know if your marriage is going to make it through COVID-19. I don't know, but I want to give that. What are some things that people can be doing in this time to start the process over?
I say first, make sure that you create some dedicated time to talk to your spouse. In that talking, purpose in your heart to do a whole lot of listening. Really listening with your heart, listening for your spouse's heart. And I always quote, Stephen Covey, who says, seek first in communication, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Not listening so that you can figure out how you're going to get your little jab in. No, listen to the heart of the matter, even if the tone isn't right, even if their voice may be raised because they're emotional and they're feeling passionate about what they're saying. Still listen to the words. And if you don't feel like you've heard them clearly, even if you feel like you've heard them clearly, ask questions as they're speaking. You have all the time in the world right now to have these conversations. Set aside that time to talk, to listen, to pray together. In the middle of all of this, take the time to pray with your spouse, okay? Take the time to hear their hearts. Seek God together. Look for solution. There's always a solution, okay? Divorce does not have to be the solution. It's not really a solution. It's a decision is what divorce is. It's not a solution because it does not solve the problem at hand. If there is an inner problem, some inner work that needs to be done with you individually, guess what? You divorce, you're going to carry that same issue into the next relationship. So why not stop and take the time and work on it now? That's the first thing, I think, is having those conversations.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And I was going to say, for me, I would say just admit where you're wrong.
Yes.
Admit that, hey, I've
Take
done some things. I've said some things. I maybe avoided some things. And that's on me. And I apologize and I ask for your forgiveness for those things. And you would be surprised at how much that'll help to bring down some of those walls of defensiveness that you may be dealing with. So that would be my thing is to just admit, hey, maybe I hadn't been the best husband, but if you help me, if you're willing to help me, if you're willing to work through this with me, then I'm willing to try and figure out what is it that you need from me and do the work to be the couple, the father, the husband, the friend that I know I can be, and I know that I should be to you. So
right, and if you're in a state of mind to where you can't see that maybe you have erred in some ways, then I suggest that you take a deeper look because none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. I don't wife perfectly. I don't mother perfectly, if I can say that. So take a deeper look, and that's why I say to listen, to your spouse. Humble yourself. Humility is huge. Humble yourself and have those conversations. Take responsibility. Admit when you've wronged. Admit when you, and not. Sometimes people admit they're wrong and they're still arrogant. Like, I know I was wrong for that, but. No, like really feel that. Feel it. Sit with it, process through it, talk about it. Repentance is huge. And when it's really repentance, you feel it. You can't just skate over it. Oh, yeah, I know I was wrong for that, my bad. But no, there is no but. And so once you've done that, then you can make that turnaround and start to change that behavior and change that way of thinking. So.
Yeah, so, hey, we talked a couple of episodes ago, we talked about time. And so this is a great time to do that work that we were talking about. Do the maintenance. Take the wheels, if you will. Yeah. Pick up the hood of your marriage. Change the oil on your marriage. All those things, do the workouts. Yeah. Whatever those things. The workouts in marriage can be like, like Tanya said, praying together. It could be taking walks together. It could be having a date night together. Yeah. Whatever those things are that you need to do to get that spark going, or even, like I said, make it better. Yeah. Now is the time. Use this time wisely. Make sure that you come out better on the other side of this thing. So, so that's all we have for you today. Hopefully, we said something that you could take and enhance what you're doing already, or maybe even start over. I don't know. So, this is Glenn and Tanya Coleman saying, Your marriage matters. We'll see you next